In today's video, I'm going to go over BlackBerry stock because I want to go over some of the news that came out. There's about 4 of them for the month of March. We're halfway done right now for the time being. I'm going to go over a little bit of technicals as well in terms of the movement of the stock and a little bit of a preview for what you could expect for earnings for the Q4 earnings for fiscal year 2025 that is expected to come out on April 2nd of 2025. So in terms of the numbers, plus the conference call as well during that day. The only thing is, though, I haven't released the video yet in terms of what you would expect, the full video, because any day now, usually about 2 weeks prior to the earnings date, they release a press release on the official date. And once that comes out, I'm going to be releasing the video pretty much either the same day if I have time or the next day that follows, and be on the lookout for that. If you want to be notified when I do, consider following and subscribing to be notified when I do. And given that it's tax season as well, Free Tax USA provides free tax software just like TurboTax with the questions and all that stuff, and then free federal filing. But for state filing, it's $15 versus TurboTax. It's $20 if you file it early. If you file later on, closer to the deadline, it is $25 for TurboTax. So you do save a little bit of money if you use the link down below. It does help with this, does support the channel as well too at the same time. So thanks for that. I do appreciate it. No extra charge to you, same charge. It just supports the channel if you use the link down below. Again, that's Free Tax USA. Now, in terms of the earnings, again, most likely April 2nd, 2025. What I'm looking for in terms of their outlook that they provided, plus the street estimates, I'm not worried about them beating their outlook in street estimates. In my opinion, pretty much all that would be beat. In terms of also the silent sale, that chunk will be coming in as well. But if you take away the underlining, technically it could be just basically flat. What I'm more looking towards is what they will be providing for the outlook for fiscal year 2026. I think that's the most important thing out of everything that will be coming out from the earnings report. Because again, if you don't look at that outlook and you look predominantly on the numbers and do a comparison year over year, quarter over quarter, plus their outlook, or not the outlook, but their forecast and the street estimates, it's going to be a mixed bag in a way where the outlook and or forecast and street estimates will be beat. Year over year and quarter over quarter would be decline, essentially potential. Depends on how you look at it, but I'll break that down in the next video as well, like more detailed when the actual day comes out. But if you have all that, it's pretty much a 50-50 mixed bag, right? Give or take. The main thing that will be driving everything in terms of share price, in my opinion, after the fact of all that data point, will be predominantly on what they provide as an outlook for fiscal year 2026. That I think would be the main driving factor, unless there's some kind of curveball that gets thrown in terms of the earnings report. But we'll have to wait and see. But again, be on the lookout for that video. It'll be basically uploaded once they announce it in terms of press release or the next day that follows. It definitely will be an interesting video. It'll be broken down quite substantially in my opinion. And yeah, be on the lookout for that. Now, in terms of the rest of the video, I'm going to go over the news, but first I want to go a little bit of technicals. And in terms of the news, it's pretty good. It's basically partnerships or continuation with AMD. So it's a GPU and CPU company, pretty massive, right? In terms of comparison with like Intel and NVIDIA and all stuff. And then also continue work with Intel as well, continue work with autonomous shipments, logistics and all stuff. But I'm going to get into that. It's all good stuff. And it kind of shows a glimpse of potential future workings in the future, if that makes sense too as well. Now I'm going to just minimize this for a sec. So currently we're looking at $4.54 US for BlackBerry stock. It has moved substantially in the recent months, but at the same time we've seen like a stagnant phase right now. But in my opinion, it's predominantly for the most part led by the markets. If you saw, the markets have been getting dragged down, a bunch of conflicts, etc., tariffs, and then plus the Fed not necessarily wanting to reduce interest rates, given that they're worried about the current administration in terms of potential rise in inflation. The data points is coming to show that's not the case. So we'll see. There is a Fed meeting happening on Wednesday. And most likely from what they've stated, they're not going to do a Fed rate cut, which is unfortunate. But given the latest data in terms of inflation numbers that came in, they technically should reduce the interest rate, but I think most likely they'll push it for the next Fed meeting. I'm not a professional though, so please do own due diligence and research before buying and selling. And also one thing to note, I do own shares in BlackBerry, so be mindful of that while you're watching this video as well. But yeah, so given all that stuff, the market has been getting hit here and there. And there has been times when we were rising, when the market was getting hit, we were still rising. So that was quite beneficial. But for now, we've been getting hit a decent amount, which is unfortunate. But overall, I think we'll still be fine, especially leading up to the earnings. The only thing is though, there is a little bit of headwinds. So besides the fact that the market's getting pulled down, and plus I do release a weekly video covering the markets as well. And from that video, which I'll be posting soon within today too as well, there is more further downside in the terms of the markets to come in the near future, unless for somehow the Fed not only cuts rates, but the narrative is we're cutting rates and then we're going to continue cutting rates because we see the inflation data coming in more positive, and inflation is not rising based off of what they thought that was going to happen with the current administration. And if that is the case, then technically the markets could reverse the indications to the upside, and that could be beneficial where the BlackBerry technically won't necessarily get pulled down from the standpoint of the market. But even if they do cut rates and the narrative is in the negative side and they're like, well, we'll cut rates the next meeting potentially, and then but we're still worried about the inflation going up and all stuff, then I don't think that would be enough to pull the markets to the upside in terms of reversing the indications to the upside, if that makes sense. So given further pull down, and then if earnings is not phenomenal, then I think in a way then you'll continue to the downside, potentially. But we're at a pretty much not pivotal point, but a good level of we saw continuous support. And what I mean by that, so again, we're at $4.54 US, and then we saw a couple times bounce at the low $4 price point. So back in February 3rd, 2025, give or take February 3rd, yeah, we pretty much hit low $4 price point, went back up, and then back in March 4th, give or take, we hit low $4, bounced back up, and then in March 10th, low $4 and bounced back up, and we saw pretty much resistance the whole entire time at the low $4 price point, all the way from, give or take, let's just say, if you want to include this data point, I wouldn't personally, but if you wanted to, give or take, it's back in December of 26 December of 2024, and then here to here, all the way from January 2nd, 2025, all the way till, give or take, January 28th, 2025. So this is clearly a level of resistance and support within the zone. And if that's the case, even when we head down, I think this would hold us. Because in my opinion, I don't think earnings is going to be horrible. I think it's actually going to be good. It's just more predominantly held on what their forecast that they'll provide for fiscal year 2026, the whole entire year, will be. And if it is substantially higher, that is great news. I'm expecting the stock to go up. If it's just flatlined, then it's a mixed bag, potentially getting carried by the markets or news, whatever they end up releasing in terms of BlackBerry's news overall. And if it's not great, we could end up getting pulled. And then the question is, will this level hold? Will this level not hold? So on and so forth. But we have to assess it as the data comes in, right? But I'm not expecting any crazy curveballs. I'm expecting positive news. It just depends on how positive of a news we do get. That's what I'm hoping to get, if that makes sense. But yeah, so now the problem is in terms of headwinds, right? If we're looking at the 1 year chart, this is not the headwind. We're in the bearish movement. As you could clearly see, we're getting pulled down, but we technically are getting out of it. The only problem is if you look at the 5 year chart, by the way, this is MACD line, indicates if it's in bearish or bullish movement. And that was in the bearish movement, but potentially crossing over to a bullish movement. But the problem is, again, the markets leading up to the Fed meeting that's happening on Wednesday, by the way, and Jerome Powell will be speaking at 2:30 p.m., which most likely I'll be live streaming on my channel. That could impact the markets as well, right? So kind of get pulled within it. But either way, be on the lookout for that. But if you look at the 5 year chart, we are in the bullish movement, but we are coming down and technically could be heading down lower into and then crossing over to the bearish movement, right? The only thing is though, the data points that are coming in recently, even though the volume is not really that high yet, but it's still not completed data points. So we still have more data to come in for the 5 year chart, but right now it's predominantly coming in the buy side. So given that, with the all chart MACD line being in the bullish movement, and yes, the data points are coming on the sell side, but I think that's due to recent developments, obviously. But with earnings coming in close, all stuff, I think this will reverse once it's completed to predominantly the buy side versus the sell side. And being strong in the bullish movement, I think this would reverse and continue to the upside. That's just my opinion. Be mindful, I'm not a professional. Plus, at the same time, I do own shares in the company, so be mindful of that. But we've seen that in the past as well, where we were in the bullish movement. You could argue we're going to come down to the bearish movement, but we ended up continuing to the upside right back here, which was November of 2024, give or take, just estimate. And then there's times that we were short-lived on the downside too as well, where we were going to cross over to a bearish movement, but it's quite significantly short-lived, and this was back in August of 2024. So even though if we do dip down with the overall market and all stuff, it could be essentially short-lived in my opinion. But again, it all depends as the data points come in, right? So hopefully earnings is phenomenal, hopefully, or at least great, or whatever it might be, right? And then these indications could reverse strongly more to the upside, if that makes sense. But at the same time, like I stated, headwinds, you could expect them to come in. Like for example, the 5-year chart, it's not necessarily looking that strong, arguably so. And then the 1 month, it is in the bullish movement, but again, it's coming more so in the bearish movement. But these are more shorter term though. 3 months, same thing. Bullish movement, yes, but technically could get pulled down. And then 6 month bullish movement, and it could technically come down. Now you could argue with the 1 month, 3 month, and 6 month, they are in the bullish movement, and then they are technically breaking levels. So for example, I think it was the 3 month as well. Let me just double check. Yeah, okay, so above the 50-day and 100-day moving average and heading to the 200-day moving average for a 3 month. And then you could argue we'll see resistance at the 455, which I saw some resistance levels as well in terms of horizontal resistance levels. What is it going to say? At 460. So 455, 460 could provide some resistance. And we're at 454 anyway, right? So you could clearly see we have resistance at this level anyway. Plus the 6 month chart, we broke through the 100-day moving average, and that was at 451. Now, hopefully we stay above these levels, like especially if we pass 460 and then stay above it, then we'll see resistance at the 502 with a 200-day moving average of 6 month. And then basically the 50-day moving average at the 460 at the 1 year. So basically 450, 460 will provide some resistance. And then the 503, I think it was at the 6 month, the 200-day moving average, you expect some kind of resistance. Yeah, 502, $5.02 US. And then basically, hopefully the earnings carries us through past those levels. Till then, I'll provide more information from there. And then in case you're curious though, 5-year chart, 200-day moving average is at $5.36. Now on to the news. But to recap, basically, I'm not too worried in terms of share price. I'm expecting to overall, for the most part, go up. Just predominantly led by overall market movements, interest rates, what the Fed states, again, the movements of the market, plus what news BlackBerry ends up releasing. Again, be on the lookout, for example, the backlog data. They're expecting to update the backlog numbers soon, and either it should be as we lead up to the earnings, or during the earnings conference call within the earnings report, they'll mention that the backlog number has increased, which again, for the most part, it's 100% margins on that backlog revenue that's coming in, which is pretty awesome. But yeah, so with that, and plus the earnings, if it's good, ultimately I'm hoping and expecting to go up. But again, be mindful, not a professional, and I do own shares in the company as well. So there's that. Now in terms of the news that's been released, again, for the month of March, there's all this four news things that came out was in this month. So March 4th was for this one. Fernride selects QNX for safety certified autonomous terminal tractor solution. Powered by the QNX OS for safety, Fernride new autonomous solution helps logistics customers tackle labor shortages and boost efficiency. So in essence, this is moving into the future, which is pretty awesome. And Fenride is a company that does basically the shipment, not logistics, but how do I say this? Basically for the shipments, for the crates at the docks, they could do this autonomously. And what they need to have is safety, to be safety certified and all that stuff. And it looks like from this posting in terms of the press release, they were trying to do this, for example, with Linux, and QNX offers a quick solution to convert to QNX in terms of, for example, they're certified to ISO 26262 ASIL D, and the conversion is quite quick, and it saves cost and time for the companies to switch over, which Fenride took advantage of. And safety, from what they stated, is Fenride stated, safety is a non-negotiable priority at Fenride, said John Huggins, Senior Engineer Manager at Fenride. As a next milestone, we will remove the safety driver from the cabin of our autonomous terminal factors to unlock the path to scaling with our customers. To do this, we need to authoritatively prove that the entire system is safe. Choosing a certified operating system means we are able to shorten the timeline for getting the entire technology stack for our solutions certified. It is important for us to be mindful of our resources without compromising the quality of outcome. Which one of the press releases that they stated was, which is actually the last one, and I'm going to go over it. A lot of times with the time crunches that these engineers have, safety does get compromised, and which when I was going over this press release, it kind of made me think that the next steps that they're trying to do is basically have no driver as a safety precaution in these autonomous workings kind of things. And if that is the case, obviously safety factors are a critical component of this whole entire thing, which led me to the next part, which is, yes, BlackBerry is part of the autonomous driving sector in the world and all that stuff, but once the driver is no longer required, then the demand for safety is naturally going to be increased, right? And given BlackBerry's certified safety credentials, I think a lot of companies, especially in the autonomous world, will have to gravitate towards BlackBerry for the most part if they want to save cost, because you could go on your own path and, for example, try to do it through, for example, systems like Linux and work off of that foundation and build on top of yours and then get that safety certified. But it's a lot of work, a lot of cost, a lot of time spent versus just going with BlackBerry, and that could save a lot of cost and time for you as an upfront for a company, and then work off of what you want to focus off besides the safety portion and not compromise the safety side. So I think this press release kind of shows that, and Fenride is one of the companies that has done this, right? So that is beneficial. I think that is great. And then in terms of the next press release, we have QNX extends collaboration with AMD to boost performance in robotic systems. Now, we saw back in April of 2024, AMD and BlackBerry have partnered up in terms of the robotics side, which is awesome. Now, this press release is for March 11th, 2025. And just a quick read through, new QNX boards support packages for AMD adaptive compute devices to enhance the next generation of high performance applications. QNX division, BlackBerry Limited, today has announced expandable collaboration with AMD to support a wider range of AMD adaptive computing devices to enhance performance in robotic systems and other embedded devices. The portfolio now includes QNX software development platform SDP 8.0 for AMD Kria SOMS and AMD Xeon ultra-scale and versatile adaptive SoC platforms to allow developers to run high-performance applications on QNX operating system OS and QNX hypervisor. I might have butchered some of the names in terms of AMD processors and all stuff. Sorry about that, but hopefully you got the idea. And then building on the collaboration announced in April of 2024, QNX and AMD continue to push the boundaries of innovation in embedded systems. The enhanced support for AMD devices underscores QNX's commitment to providing robust solutions for industrial, medical, automotive, and robotic workloads, leveraging the real-time operating system RTOS capabilities of QNX to enable systems to operate within the strict timing constraints crucial for embedded software. So this is great because they're obviously expanding to other markets besides just the automotive side. So it covers industrial, medical, and robotics, obviously, right? So this is great. And for example, QNX with being real-time operating system, this is quite crucial for other companies to take advantage of this, and they tend to want this as well. And then in terms of AMD's statement, they said we are excited to deepen our relationships with QNX, bringing enhanced QNX SDP 8.0 capabilities to the embedded systems market, said Simon George, Director Solutions Engineering Embedded Software at AMD. The combination of AMD adaptive platform and QNX proven and trusted RTOS, so real-time operating system, and hypervisor will empower developers to push the boundaries of what's possible in embedded systems. And then it's just continuation of the collaboration, all stuff and workarounds. But you always like seeing this kind of stuff because it's showing that they've worked well with each other, and they're in that collaboration and partnership is flourishing even further, if that makes sense. So that's great. And another great press release is with the mix of Intel and Next Cobot. I might be saying that name incorrectly, sorry about that. But QNX launches functional safety platform to consolidate safety system and AI workloads. This came out on March 12th of 2025. Collaborating with Intel and Next Cobot, QNX safety certifiable solution delivers enhanced safety and enhanced and efficiency in AI powered robotics available on one platform. Now, Next Cobot is essentially a company that if you want to build a robot, we make building smart and safe robots easy. You essentially tell them what you want, and they build it based off an order from what credentials you want. So I'm assuming their volume might be pretty massive. I haven't looked their numbers up, but I would hope it's pretty massive, because if they're working with Intel and then partnering up with the BlackBerry and all stuff, but I would say more of Intel because they're getting into this specifically in terms of the robotics side as well. I would assume the volume is pretty good. So if that is the case, this is a good press release overall, and a continuation work with Intel is always great too as well. continuously flourishing overall. So QNX division of BlackBerry Limited today announced a cutting-edge functional safety FUSA platform for advanced robotic system, working with Intel and NextCobot, leading provider of key components for smart robot applications. The safety certifiable platform consolidates robotics and safety protocols onto a single cobot board, aiming to provide manufacturing developers a way to achieve greater cost savings, lower power consumption, improved thermal efficiency, and reduced risk of hardware failures. And then, so from this, when I went over the press release, just a continuation of the works back and forth, dynamics. I just make sure if I didn't miss anything. So yeah, one thing that made me think about was, so technically, from what all I'm seeing from this, for example, the Finred, or sorry if I'm mispronouncing the name, but the logistics side of the shipping side, plus with this partnership with Intel and NextCobot, it seems like a lot of companies will benefit from this from terms of cost savings and time if they incorporate BlackBerry's safety side. And then at the same time, given that BlackBerry's safety in terms of QNX uses less energy and is quite safe overall and has all these certifications, companies like Tesla, technically in the future, either they could still develop in-house or fully use QNX at one point, because Tesla has the robotics coming in at one point, and if it's low power consumption, it could be beneficial for the robots that are coming in the future. But we'll see. Tesla's always operating on a different spectrum overall versus other competitors, so they might go through a different venture overall, or like in-house kind of stuff. But at the same time, if it saves cost, time, low power consumption, which is important for robots in my opinion, if that makes sense, and then improved thermal efficiency, which is pretty awesome, right? Which reduces the risk of hardware failures from what they stated to, which obviously would make sense too, then technically this would drive other companies to use it, and hopefully at one point Tesla for the robots. I don't know if you guys are familiar, but if you guys saw Tesla, was it Robot AI or something? I forgot what it's called. Pretty awesome stuff. I think it's a great future for Tesla and pretty substantial. But if given that, I can see other companies essentially coming and gravitating towards the same setups that, for example, NextCobot and Finride have come to, right? So yeah, that's great collaboration, great press release from there, or not collaboration, but working with. And then the last one is QNX unveils general embedded development platform to accelerate developer innovation. And essentially, I'll read the headline quickly, but I'll do a recap instead of reading the whole entire thing. So QNX division of BlackBerry Limited today announced the launch of its QNX General Embedded Development Platform, GEDP, designed to accelerate the development of high-performance, scalable, and secure embedded system across various general embedded industries such as robotics, medical, industrial automation, and then featuring the QNX Real-Time Operating System, RTOS, and a comprehensive suite of QNX leading middleware and development tools. The QNX GEDP is a modular and scalable foundational software stack with flexible licensing modules that aim to accelerate go-to-market for developers of embedded systems while ensuring they meet the highest standards of functional safety, security, and performance. So essentially, if they go with them, basically saving costs and providing safety without compromising safety and shortening the time, right? Given that there was a study within here, so recent research commissioned that by QNX validates this. So technically you could argue that it was done by QNX either way, but revealing a growing tension between meeting tight project deadlines and maintaining functional safety. Survey of 1,000 embedded software developers and engineers worldwide showed that 75% of respondents acknowledged urgency often forces them to compromise on key safety requirements. Now it depends on how important the system is in general. For the most part, there's always safety levels that needs to be met anyway, and you could see that is always being showed that 75% of the time it's does compromise or something like that. But then there's some things that you really can't compromise, and time constraints could affect this. For example, autonomous driving and all that stuff. So as much as they try to potentially say we could compromise with this, at a certain point with certain type of safety demands for some of these systems, there's only so much that could be done, and they would have to turn to BlackBerry technically, or somebody else, obviously, right? It's not just BlackBerry, but that just basically shows to me that the market is growing in terms of demands for these types of products that BlackBerry happens to provide, right? And that's basically it for today's video. Again, be on the lookout for the earnings video. It'll be jam-packed with a lot of information, and hopefully when earnings comes out, the forecast outlook for fiscal year 26 is awesome, hopefully. And again, thanks again for watching. Appreciate it. Take care. God bless and peace.